The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.thebenjamindixonshow.com to register for our blog and join the Progressive Army. And now, ladies and gentlemen,
We are now about to witness the
it's the Benjamin Dixon Show.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Benjamin Dixon Show. I am your host, Benjamin Dixon. It is Monday, May 2nd, 2016. I am broadcasting. Listen, you guys have been following me for a long time. So, right, I can really just move away from all the pretense and tell you that we are trying to figure out exactly what the hell we're doing. But we're live. We're live on YouTube and we're live on Spreaker like we normally are. And we're just pulling up the video now to view this. So you're looking at a black screen right now on YouTube. So YouTube, hold tight because we love you. I know that you're there. On Spreaker, I know the audio should be nice and crisp. So let me know if anything is not operating the way that you normally would expect. So as you could tell, we're coming from some live studios here in Boston. You may recognize the setup as soon as we have video. But anyway, it's one of those days, folks. So here we are. Okay, so camera 2 is working. We want to get camera 1 in the mix. So there's no audio, there's no video feed from camera 1. But you don't know how excited I am just to have the stream going and the fact that you guys can actually hear me, which is a big deal. So listen, thanks to everyone who's making this happen. I want to thank David Packman. I want to thank Lewis. I can never pronounce Lewis's last name, so I don't even know why I tried right there. But anyway, so tonight, this is how we're going to do it. If you want to join the conversation, instead of calling 857-600-0518 like we normally do, I want you to Skype me at The Benjamin Dixon Show. Skype The Benjamin Dixon Show to join the conversation. You can talk to me audio-wise, or you can possibly share video if you're presentable, right? So, yep, there we go. Anyway, while I have you, 857, nope, again, it's not 857-600-0518. Okay, so listen. I'm just going to talk to you guys. I do have some wonderful gentlemen here who are helping me fix this. So in the meantime, let me just talk to you guys about anything that comes to my mind for a second. Yeah. Or I can go ahead and go with a news story for the day. Let's go with a news story. I think that's what we'll do. So you guys on YouTube, you're just going to have to get used to just hearing my voice for a few seconds while we get the camera restarted, figure out what the heck was going on there with the camera. But here's a quick question. Was the camera showing before?
The camera was working.
The camera was working fine. Now it said to hell with you guys.
Pretty much.
Pretty much.
We're doing our best.
So here's the thing. Obviously, once we get this rolling, it's gonna be nice. You can't even see the best part about this setup is the camera and the video and everything else. So don't know what to tell you. Other than I'm going to refocus my mind and you're going to listen to my voice as I start telling you a little bit about the news. This is where I want to start. This is easy. This is low-hanging fruit. I can talk about this without even stressing over the fact that that nothing is working the way we planned, but that's okay. I want to talk about Larry Wilmore. Let's see if that works. Well, Larry Wilmore was on the White House Correspondents' Dinner. Larry Wilmore, seems to be a lot of controversy, a lot of, yeah, here we go. I think I have something we can use.
Let me focus on.
Okay. Yeah, so, yeah, good point. I actually want to start the whole show over, but that's okay. So Larry Wilmore. White House Correspondents' Dinner. You want to go for it? Let's go for camera 3. All right, camera 3. Hey, there you guys go. What's going on? Welcome to the Benjamin Dixon Show. We finally have video. Not sure why camera 2 went out, but we're here. We're live in Boston, and I want to talk about the news for a few minutes, And then after the show, we're going to figure out everything that went on. And tomorrow night, everything will be copacetic. Everything will be as you expect. But check out the new digs. I am broadcasting from studios here in Boston. I'll talk to the guys who own the studio to actually see what the proper name is to call it. But I want to talk about Larry Wilmore. Larry Wilmore was at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, and he did what he does. He roasted everyone in the audience, everyone from President Obama down to Don Lemon, down to Wolf Blitzer, everyone who was there. No one was safe. The only person who was safe was actually First Lady Obama. There's a lot of controversy, obviously, over Larry Wilmore using the N-word. And I don't know. I can understand why someone would think it's controversial. We've talked about this on my show quite a bit. On my show, I've said probably before a lot of you got here, on my show, I've discussed how the N-word is not offensive to me in the proper context. But there are a lot of people who are African Americans who don't agree with me. There's a lot of black people who are upset with Larry Wilmore for using the N-word at the White House Correspondents' Dinner in reference to President Obama. So there's a lot of fallout. Some people liked it. So personally, I enjoyed his entire set. The entire 22 minutes were hilarious because he was talking to me. He obviously was not talking to the people in the audience. He wasn't talking to the media establishment. He was using the media establishment as a what's the word? As a muse, right? He was using them for the brunt of his jokes. They didn't appreciate it, and you could tell it was a tough room for him. But from a lot of people who watched the show, we were laughing our butts off the entire time. I mean, the joke about President Obama using, like Steph Curry, using long distance bombs or dropping bombs from long distances, you know, that cut really deep. You could see it cut President Obama, but he was a good sport about it. I mean, all the way through to his jokes about Bernie Sanders getting a hernia, all the way through to jokes about Hillary Clinton, and just, it was a really rough night if you were the butt of the joke for Larry Wilmore. But he closed it out by keeping it 100. And sometimes keeping it 100 goes too far. And for some people, he really went too far. And so the question that actually came up about this is whether or not it is not appropriate, because obviously it's not appropriate to use it in such a public setting, but whether or not black people can use the N-word and not have a racial connotation or a racist connotation. This is an ongoing debate, and you'll find like there's a lot of people who are divided on it. First of all, my family is divided on it. My wife absolutely hates the phrase. She doesn't care if it's coming from a Klansman or if it's coming from me talking to one of my boys. She doesn't like it. That's not me. That's not how I grew up. I actually grew up using the word all the time. It doesn't, you know, it's a term of endearment. When Larry Wilmore, and this is how you know it's a term of endearment, when Larry Wilmore actually said it, you could see President Obama crack up laughing, bump his chest, and essentially let everyone know that this is a term of endearment. Now, that does not happen for everybody. Everyone did not interpret it the same way, and that has to be understandable. But the moral of the story was, the biggest takeaway for me for Larry Wilmore was simply the fact that he was transmitting to a different audience than what was in front of him. Larry Wilmore was transmitting to, I think, his Twitter audience. He was transmitting to people like me who never really watched them because I never really liked him on Comedy Central. But I think now that I've seen him do this stand-up, this routine, I think I will check him out a little bit more. I enjoyed it. I love the fact that he made people who expected a certain type of joke, he made them uncomfortable. And he made them uncomfortable with jokes that were seriously about the truth. And so he was pointing out truth. And I think that's a difference between a clown and a jester, a court jester, someone who is bold enough to really speak truth to power through their comedy. And all night long on Saturday night, Larry Wilmore was doing just that. All right. I think I've warmed up enough to move on past Larry Wilmore and talk about some real news. All right, let's talk about I want to talk about Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders on the Sunday shows made it evident that he's going to go all the way to a convention. He's expecting the convention to be a contested convention, primarily because Hillary Clinton will not have sufficient enough delegates outside of the super delegates. And he made the announcement on Saturday, Sunday, this became evident. And of course, this has caused a major backlash. Paul Krugman put out a piece in his weekly New York Times op-ed saying Bernie's bad end, essentially saying that after all this that Bernie has gone through, he's ending his campaign with very poor taste. The ironic thing about it is that Bernie Sanders is merely doing exactly what he saw Hillary Clinton do in 2008. If you remember in 2008, Hillary Clinton pushed this campaign all the way into the Rules Committee of the DNC. You may not remember, but I remember clearly. Clearly recall the live broadcast of the DNC Rules Committee reviewing the different results of the caucuses and the primaries, the superdelegates. And this really became a major deal because Hillary Clinton would not concede. Now, it's not a one-to-one direct comparison, but it really shows that candidates always push this as far as they can. Now, I don't know. How do you feel? I don't know that I feel, I don't know what I feel about it, to be honest with you. The jury's still out. I'm not in favor of a contested convention over superdelegates, mainly because of all of the animus and all of the frustration that we have had with superdelegates so far. And if this nomination were to come to Bernie Sanders because of superdelegates, then we would be using, or Bernie Sanders and his supporters would be using the same exact tactics that they have been attacking Hillary Clinton on since she started raking up and collecting all of the superdelegates in the first place. So it's a principle thing. If there was a problem with Hillary Clinton getting these superdelegates and stacking them up, these undemocratic, remember all the articles saying this undemocratic, that it's ignoring the voice of the people. And, if Bernie Sanders gets all the superdelegates for the caucuses and the primaries that he won, would he still have enough to actually get the nomination if it went to a contested convention? And the math in that regards doesn't add up, nor do the principles add up. However, here's the only caveat I would give you. The fact that Hillary Clinton and other candidates have set the precedent to not stop until they've gone as far as they possibly could go. From that perspective, I've got no problem with Bernie Sanders digging in and saying he's going to go as far as he can go. But from the perspective of the strategy being superdelegates, I don't know. I just have a problem with that a little bit because we've spent so much time over the last couple of weeks complaining about the superdelegates, and to be using that now as a means of not only staying in the race, but as the justification for a contested convention. I don't know. What do you think? You can dial me at the Progressive Army on Skype. And starting tomorrow, we'll probably have our phone lines back up. But for now, the Progressive Army not the Progressive Army, but the Benjamin Dixon Show on Skype. I want to have your opinion. Or you can post your comment in the chat room, and my producers will throw it here in the chat room that I'm looking at right now. I want to know what you think. Should Bernie Sanders go all the way to the convention if the convention and that contested convention is based on superdelegates? And should Bernie Sanders be using superdelegates when we've been complaining about how undemocratic superdelegates have been for a very long time? All right, here we go. I'm warming up, folks. New spot, new location, technical difficulties, but I think we're ready to go. I want to talk about two more things. This is going to be an abbreviated show. It's going to be an abbreviated show. Tomorrow night, we'll be back with the set, everything ready to go. We'll figure out all the technical difficulties. But Tomorrow night, we'll also have a Noah Changa on with The Way with the Noah at 8 p.m. and I'll be coming in right at 9 p.m. with the Benjamin Dixon Show. We're back to our regular scheduled programs, just new location, new setup, and new technical difficulties to work through, but no big deal. We've been there before. All right, let me go to my live production room here and see what everyone is yelling at me. Okay. She agrees with my, okay. Anoa talking about the issue with Larry Wilmore. She said that she agrees with my wife, that the N-word is inappropriate no matter who says it. I don't know. I seriously, I want to hear your opinion on that as well with Bernie Sanders. There's no really need for me to rush to the next conversation because I really want to know what you guys think on that. I personally, I'm not offended by, it's one of those things, right? I think every group, let's talk about racial slurs and offensive words. Every single group has words that they have co-opted or they've taken the power out of, and they've returned that power back to themselves, right? They take an offensive word and they strip the power from the people that have been using that word against them, and then they use it for themselves. I won't give you any other examples because to give you other examples would be for me to actually use the word, but I will reference the words, right? Women have words that they can call each other that men cannot call them. And whether or not it's offensive, it's between the women who use the word. The LGBTQ community, right? They can call each other words that someone who does not have the similar experiences, does not have the similar background, has not been through the same struggles. They can say words that we can never say because we don't identify with that struggle. Case in point, Mark Lamont Hill was on CNN and he was talking about the N-word, and he just expressly used it, right, live on CNN. And he said, you know, Trinidad James, a rapper, he said, I might call Trinidad James. And see, here's where I jump off. And you see, I'm hesitating to say it in front of you guys. The only problem I had with Larry Wilmore saying it is because he said it in front of a bunch of people that if they said it, it would have been offensive, right? Like, I've done my best. I think I've said it on my show maybe twice in a year. That's because it's just part of my natural vernacular. It's just something I would say on any given day. If I see some of my boys, that's something I would say, right? But it's not something that I'm going to say in a formal format. It's not something I'm going to say in front of a bunch of white people because I don't want them to feel comfortable saying it themselves, right? So that's where I jump off the ship with Larry Wilmore. However, I understand what Larry Wilmore was doing. I understand what he was trying to do. I understand where he was going with it. I personally didn't have a problem. Matter of fact, not only did I not have a problem with it, but it was the best thing ever for me. For my wife, it was offensive, but for me, it was the best thing ever. So that's why I don't really jump off this shit. I don't have a problem with it. I understand. From somebody in the chat room said, I don't use the N-word unless I'm trying to be vulgar on purpose. Fair enough. And another person from the chat room said, I'm not going to pretend it hasn't slipped, joking with my brothers, never in mixed company. Yeah, so, and that's the thing. Like, if we use the exact same context, could you imagine someone from the gay community referencing the first gay president, or at least the first openly gay president, referencing them with a word that they use in the privacy of their community, and then bringing it out front and saying that, you know exactly what I'm referring to. Do you think it, like, in that context, in that mixed company, it seems that much more inappropriate? So I don't know. It didn't offend me. I loved it. I loved every bit of it. I loved every second of it. The other thing that I loved about the White House Correspondents' Dinner was President Obama's first 2 minutes. The first 2 minutes of President Obama was fabulous, right? And I'll get to my last story before 10 o'clock. Sorry, guys, half-hour show tonight. I love you. See you tomorrow. But President Obama, in the first 2 minutes of his set, was brilliant. I loved it the most when he said, I apologize for being late. I was on CP time, which stands for jokes that white people just shouldn't make. That to me was the best joke of the night because he properly put it into context. There are just some things that people with shared experiences, shared identities, shared backgrounds, they could get away with saying to each other that other people can't. And it's just the boundaries that you just have to respect. I think a lot of people have a problem with respecting those boundaries. It's like when Kobe Bryant got suspended for using the slur, the homophobic slur years ago. At first, I had a problem with it because of the same exact thing. I'm like, they use it with each other. He didn't mean, you start making all these excuses. But when you apply it to your exact same scenario, if you have one, right? If you apply it to the N-word, then you understand that there are certain circumstances and certain people could say it. So not to relitigate it, but I just thought it was hilarious. I thought it was funny. And it was the reaction from conservatism was everything that you would expect. Conservatives 100% lost their shit over the fact that Larry Wilmore used this word at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, and it unleashed a torrent of their own racism. Like this is the perfect way for us to address the fact that Larry Wilmore said something we thought was racist. Let's go ahead and be a little bit racist ourselves. So you could leave it to conservatives to go one step too far and to take an issue that is worth conversation, that's worth discussing. Is it offensive? Was it, even if it wasn't offensive, was it proper to use it there? These conversations that we could be having, and you had conservative outlets just lose their mind and everything else. So I want to see your opinion here in the chat room on, on Bernie Sanders. So make sure you share me that comment, or you could tweet me at the BPD show. All right. Last story of the night is going to be about May Day. And not just May Day, but Loyalty Day. I was amazed that Loyalty Day was a thing that I had never heard of. And matter of fact, as I'm saying it to you, many of you probably have never heard of it. Loyalty Day in America, it's a presidential proclamation that started in 1921. It was picked up by Dwight Eisenhower, and it was a part of the original Red Scare. To understand Loyalty Day, you have to understand May Day. May Day is an international event where workers of the world unite. There is a very strong red communist scare or fear of May Day because of their the unification that surrounds labor. Labor around the world is not only uniting, but they're protesting, they're demonstrating. It's a part of why we have an 8-hour workday. Workers in the past, at the onset of May Day, demanded better working conditions, 8-hour work days. So this is what May Day has been celebrated for years. I did not know that in response to May Day, the President of the United States, starting as far back as Dwight Eisenhower, began making this proclamation that May 1st, which is also May Day, is actually going to be Loyalty Day. And they moved another holiday off of it. I can't remember. It was some one of those million holidays that we have. They moved another holiday off because they wanted it to coincide exactly with May Day. And this proclamation, I'll read the proclamation to you, perhaps. But the proclamation is creepy at best, and propagandistic is really what it is. So I'm going to read this to you. All right, so the presidential proclamation of Loyalty Day of 2016 by the President of the United States of America. America endures because of the generations of our people who have endeavored alongside one another, joining their voices and their efforts to ensure our nation lives up to blah, 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 blah. All right, moving on. Next paragraph. Our nation has always been at its finest when guided by a spirit of shared sacrifice and common purpose. It is that spirit that led small bands of all of these, blah, 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 blah. Reading, let's go down. While ours has always been a large and complicated democracy full of differing views and boisterous debates, our history also makes it clear that we are strongest when we find our diversity a deeper, richer unity stemming from the overarching belief that the possibilities of our shared future holds, In order to recognize the American spirit of loyalty and the sacrifices of so many who have made for our great nation, the Congress, by public law as amended, has designated May 1st of each year as Loyalty Day. On this day, let us reaffirm our allegiance to the United States of America and pay tribute to the heritage of our American freedom. Now, therefore, I, Barack Obama, he signed this on May 1st. President of the United States of America, do hereby proclaim May 1st, 2016 as Loyalty Day. This Loyalty Day, I call upon all the people of the United States to join in support of this national observance, whether by displaying the flag of the United States or pledging allegiance to the republic for which it stands. All right. I've got no problem that you are loyal to America. Matter of fact, I'm loyal to, we get it. But how weird is it? And how, not just weird, but just unusual is it for something that was born in the Red Scare, something that was born in direct competition and fear of labor rights and labor standing up for itself, labor uniting, for us to still be doing in 2016 something that was born out of the Cold War. It's amazing. It's amazing to me that something like this really has gone on under the radar for people like me who steeped in history, but this has completely gone on underneath my radar. And it stood out to me because at first I thought it was something that President Obama did. But then when you dig into the history of it, it actually stems back all the way back to 1921 unofficially, and it became an official proclamation that every president has made since Dwight Eisenhower was president. Every year, every president makes this proclamation of loyalty, and it's almost a slap in the face. It's a slap in the face of workers, of labor, because it is still standing in the face in direct opposition to May Day and May Day, the significance that it has to labor unions across the world. So to me, it seems like this is a vestige of the past that we don't want to get rid of, because after all that we've done, after all that we've been through, after as far as America has quote unquote come, we are still afraid of quasi-socialist ideas. We're afraid of labor unions. We're afraid of labor unions celebrating across the country. We're still fearful of them. All right, folks, it is 10:02. I'm going to stop here because we still have to work out some kinks. I hope you like the new hangout where I'll be. We'll have all kinds of stuff happening in the background. It's going to be good. It's going to be slamming. You can support the Benjamin Dixon Show. The announcer at the end will tell you how. Starting tomorrow, we'll figure out how to make sure you can get your phone calls in to 857-600-0518. If we can't, we want you to always dial in through Skype, the Benjamin Dixon Show. And if you're dressed properly, I might even be able to bring your video up so you can join the conversation. So first night, I'm out of here. Let's go.
The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.thebenjamindixonshow.com to register for our blog, join the Progressive Army, and support The Benjamin Dixon Show. It's Ben Dixon! If you like this episode, be sure to share, like, and subscribe.
Consider becoming a Patreon. Go to www.patreon.com/The BPD Show and support The Benjamin Dixon Show.
The Benjamin Dixon Show is only possible with listener support. Go to www.thebenjamindixonshow.com to register for our blog, join the Progressive Army, and support The Benjamin Dixon